Well, that is it. The curtain has fallen on the 2022 Formula One season with a record 15th win for the season for two-time world champion Max Verstappen, who was in supreme and imperious form around the Yas Marina circuit. The battle for P2 in the championship saw Charles Leclerc beat narrowly Sergio Perez for top honours there, completing the podium on a day of thrills around the circuit. Hi folks, welcome to F1 Live, your post-race show with me, Will Buxton, joined, as happened all weekend, by James Hinchcliffe and Jolyon Palmer. And guys, I think a slightly better race than we were expecting. Multiple different strategies and a resurgent Ferrari that seemingly came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first half of the race, there was tons of on-track action. I think way more than we were expecting. Second half of the race, it was really all about Perez trying to track down Leclerc. Was it going to be the one-stoppers? Was it going to be the two-stoppers? So kind of different feelings in the first half and the last half, but great result all around, and then great to see. I know it's the bottom of the top 10, but 9th and 10th, Danny Rick, Sebastian Vettel, their last races, a little emotional. I was really glad that happened.
They gave Checo a hell of a job to do, and it came so close for him.
Yeah, I mean, it was nail-biting right at the end. I mean, it was literally to the lap, and on the last one, he was just probably like 3/4 of a second too far back. And there were a couple of moments, the pass on Hamilton that took him a lap longer than it needed to. The traffic that he had, I think it was Gasly fighting with Albon. I think it was Albon at that time. Cost him a little bit more. And these are the crucial moments that between a 2 and a 1 stop, there was nothing to call. And it was a fight that went down to the wire.
We thought Mercedes might have been in with a shout today. Ultimately proved they didn't have the pace. They couldn't fight. Lewis Hamilton retiring from the race. First mechanical DNF for Mercedes this year, in the very last race of the year.
And it's all the more impressive when you consider it's a brand new set of regs for 2022. Everything changed on these cars. Everything was new. So for that to be the case, when you see, compare that to reliability of Fernando Alonso's Alpine, for example, what was that, the 6th mechanical for him? Just heartbreaking. But yeah, I really expected them to be a little bit stronger, maybe have the better of Ferrari over the race distance. It just really wasn't the case.
All three teams were remarkably evenly matched, though. I thought Red Bull were going to run away and hide in this one. When they're locking out the front row in quali, you know that the race is normally where they have a bigger advantage over Ferrari. I think we were all expecting Red Bull to run away with it if they got off the line, which they did. And then it looked like Mercedes were falling back in the first part, certainly Lewis reporting some issues. But actually, they were okay in the end, and he was going to be, okay, I think he was going to lose out to Carlos, but they were in that fight with Ferrari, who were in the fight with Red Bull. It was, as a three-way fight goes, it was okay. They were all quite evenly matched.
They were indeed. And now, before we look more into the race, I want to welcome Pat Simmons to the show. Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Very, very well. We've just been discussing the new regulations, a little bit anyway, for 2022. This was very much your baby, these cars. I remember walking down the pit lane in Bahrain with you when they were all launched and we all saw them for the first time. How have you found the racing this year? Has it come up to expectations?
Yeah, it definitely has. I've been really pleased with it. We put so much work into it, and it's the first time we've really had the ability to put this amount of research into a problem like this. And it's paid off. We've had great racing all the way through the season. Here, in Abu Dhabi, okay, we modified the track as well last year, which was work done by Craig Wilson and his group, and put a decent car on it, and we had a great race today, didn't we?
We've had great races all the way through the season. We've seen a lot of overtaking, some great double moves, cars able to follow one another. Have you been impressed with the action that we've seen out on track?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's so exciting to see cars close together in a fast corner, and we haven't seen that for years and years and years. And it's not just the slow corner action, it's these fast corners where they're right up against each other. They take the battle all the way, so great stuff.
We saw it in race 1 back in Bahrain, the epic fight lap on lap, Leclerc and Verstappen. Were you nervous before that first race? The whole new set of rules, one big aim of getting the cars racing each other. Were you a little bit nervous?
Oh yeah, naturally. In fact, even before that, when we'd sort of worked on these regulations, which of course originally were for 2021,
yeah,
and then COVID delayed everything a year. So all this time I'm thinking, now what are they going to do? How are they going to trip me up? And so when we went to that first test and I didn't see anything that really surprised me, I was really pleased. And then of course later on we saw the Mercedes, which was different and wasn't something we expected. And I thought, what's that going to do? And I looked at it, I thought, actually, I think that's going to be better for us. And it has turned out that way. That's a good car for following. So They haven't broken it yet, but they've got a winter to think about it.
So race teams take a race car, they develop it over the season, they develop it over the set of regulations. You guys, like you said, put so much work into these regulations to make the cars better to race. Now that we've got one season under our belts with this car, is there anything that you see you want to tweak? Any lessons you've learned that maybe we could see sneak into the regulations to make it even closer?
No, I don't think so. I think we need to let them develop. I mean, there are a few little tweaks. We saw that unusual rear wing on the Aston Martin earlier in the year, and the regulations have been tweaked to not allow that next year because it had the potential to probably go in the wrong direction. But overall, I have to say I'm pretty pleased with it. There are some small changes to the floor next year to try and, I won't say eliminate, but to reduce the amount of bouncing that we're getting on the cars. But no, I think we've got to really consolidate now. It'd be wrong to do a lot of changes.
We've seen, particularly with one team in the sport, a lot of power unit issues for them this year. One of your former teams. Obviously, you can improve the power unit for reliability purposes. How much work do you think they will be allowed to do with that?
Now, actually, that's a really interesting question because one of the changes for this year, and one that, a little bit went under the radar, was that we froze the engines to take us through to 2025. And the reason for that is we've got a new power unit coming in 26, and we didn't want parallel paths because that's a very expensive thing to do. So the idea was to freeze this engine essentially at the end of last year, although there were various parts could still be developed a bit this year. And then to just hold that. Now, of course, with a frozen engine, the regulations allow you to fix reliability problems. And what I think Ferrari did, and I admire them for it, is they pushed to the limit. So they went above and beyond where they would normally take the development, knowing that they're going to have some reliability problems, but they're going to be able to fix them, and then they can enjoy the fruits of their labor through 23, 24, 25. Mercedes, on the other hand, have taken quite a conservative approach. They've had very good reliability, but maybe they've lost a little bit of performance in it. So very interesting. Now that's what I call strategy, you see. People talk about strategy in a race. To me, strategy is about looking a few years ahead.
Amazing. We're going to let you go in a minute. One very quick one. It's not just technical regulations. We also have financial regulations, of course, in play. And a sliding scale of how much you can use that wind tunnel, how much you can use the CFD. And for a team like Mercedes, world champions last year, took them a long time to get on top of their car this year. Do you think, as the years go on, we'll see an even sort of further tightening of the field because of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you go back to 2017, when Ross and I came on board to look at how the future should be, both from a technical and a sporting point of view, one of the ambitions we had it wasn't just to have cars that could follow each other closer. We wanted to close the field up. And we set ourselves a sort of notional target because there's been, for many, many years, this sort of 3% discrepancy in lap time between the front and the back. So we wanted to halve that. You've got to have a target. We haven't quite done it yet, but we're getting pretty close to it. And I think the sliding scale in aerodynamics, which, just to explain that, every team is limited in the amount of aerodynamic research they can do. But the guys at the back get a little bit more than the guys at the front, and that's one of the things that closes the gap. Of course, the budget cap is perhaps the biggest thing, because those teams that were at the front spending an absolute fortune to look at every minute detail, they can't do it anymore. And we're already seeing how that's affecting it. We've seen Haas have a very competitive year. We've seen that midfield very close, and give it a little bit more time, it'll get more and more like that.
Absolutely. Pat, thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it. It's been a great year. It's been wonderful. Wonderful stuff. We'll see you for pre-season testing next year. Can't believe we're talking about that already. Thank you, Pat. Lovely stuff. Guys, great to hear from Pat. Obviously, it has been a great year. The racing's been fantastic. Have you enjoyed it?
That's been the highlight for me, is the racing, and it has been a noticeable difference. I would have loved the teams to be more tightly packed, and that's what Pat's saying. The longer term, we're expecting that to happen with the cost cap and the sliding scale of development.
It's going to take time.
It will take time. I thought it'd be a little bit closer at the start of the year, but hey, it didn't happen. The best thing was the racing is better than last year. Not the championship fight this year, but the actual wheel-to-wheel action, it was better.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to Jeddah, right? The layout of that track, a lot of long, fast corners. And when I saw how close cars could follow in that race, I thought, man, they've done it. They've really made this a completely different sport than it was 12 months ago. And it's incredible for the fans.
Because this comes back to the thing, we've had little rule changes for years that were meant to make it easier to follow and reduce the dirty air. And you're kind of hoping that it works in the first race, but we're trying to say, yeah, maybe it was a bit better, but in the end, you get to the end of the season, you're like, there was no discernible difference there.
And I think back to like those giant front wings and the tiny tall rear wings. The
back in
cars
09.
looked terrible and it didn't really work at all. Now you've got a car that looks awesome. Best looking F1 car for probably since 08, right? I think Lewis Hamilton's winning car back then. And it gets the job done from a racing perspective.
Really does. Highlights of the season. I want to hear from our commentary team on which parts of this year have stood out to you. Ben, let's start with you, my man.
Thanks, Will. Well, actually, it's been a fun year to do, and I've really enjoyed it. But one of the most special moments for me, and partly because when I started commentating on TV on motorsport, I was covering British Formula 3, and a certain Jan Magnussen was doing really well, winning lots of races. And then just a week ago, I saw his son take his first ever pole position. And for me, that really was a highlight. They worked it so cleverly in terms of getting him out at the right time. The conditions were tricky. He was on the correct tyre, but he delivered. He did exactly what he needed to do in Brazil by putting that very rapid lap in. And then, of course, having done that lap, the fastest lap of anybody at that point, they were waiting. Are we going to get back out? Is the track going to be dry? No, was the answer. It rained, and he took pole position. And for me, that really was a very, very special moment for the whole Haas team as well. Celebrations for them, for Günther Steiner, for the whole team. It was just a real joy to see them celebrate that. And for me, that was a highlight.
For me, Ben, I mean, that was a wonderful moment. But for me, the moment I was going to pick out before I was told I can't pick out moments from the future was Formula One announcing its ban on fossil fuel for 2026. So instead, I picked out this moment of absolutely top-tier trolling from Adrian Newey and the technical team at Red Bull Racing, drinking green cans of Red Bull at the Spanish Grand Prix. And it was all about the green bull, the fact that Red Bull felt that the Aston Martin team might have copied their homework a little bit by copying the design of the Red Bull RB18, but actually, in reality, Red Bull and Aston Martin had come up with the same concept themselves. But it really showed how Formula One teams have to get into inspiration and design things independently of one another. So, Will, that was my highlight, a bunch of guys drinking an energy drink.
Sam, why am I not surprised? That is niche. I love it. Guys, listen, from all of us here, I know from the fans on F1 TV, thank you so much for everything this season. Your commentary has been a joy. It's been absolutely wonderful to share this season with you both. Enjoy the winter, and thank you very much for everything this year, guys. It's been amazing. Right, back on the ground here in Abu Dhabi. And guys, the Grand Prix is done. The season is over. Surprise from the race today, for me, I think McLaren coming on song again after a difficult couple of races. Lando Norris with a good result, fastest lap of the race as well, latches out P7 in the championship.
Yeah, I mean, I said on commentary, I think Lando's been one of the stars. The talk has been Max and then, the fight for second in the championship, but Lando's has been plugging away every weekend, most of the time under the radar because he's just been a lot of the time in that battle just bit ahead of the midfield and behind like he was today. But he's just been so quick, and I think he's developing a McLaren into a top-tier driver.
Huge challenge for Oscar Piastri to come in alongside a driver like Lando Norris, who, as Jolien says, is top-tier right now.
I mean, it really is. He's absolutely driving at his peak. It's been a bit of a lonely season in a lot of ways, right? Because you've got your top six, right? You got the big three teams, but so often Lando's just pumping out those seventh places, kind of on his own, like he was today. He was way behind sixth, way ahead of eighth, but at the same time, he's still just developing. He's getting better, and you've got a rookie coming in. You had a race winner, Grand Prix winner like Daniel Ricciardo come in, couldn't quite keep up with him. That's why Oscar's getting this opportunity. It's a big ask.
Well, we can talk McLaren because here is Patricio O'Ward, IndyCar star, of course, but also FP1 driver this weekend for McLaren and purveyor of fine headwear.
What do you think? Does this hat look good on me?
It's a great look.
It's great. You look like Woody out of Toy Story.
Is that good or bad thing?
Great thing.
Oh, Fantastic.
Come on, man.
Good to
Toy
see you.
Story. You can see you too, man. How was the car? How was the test?
It was good. Our running got cut short a little bit. I'm sure you all saw that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as long as we would have loved it to be, but I got a lot done. I was testing some 2023 stuff for the team, which we were able to analyze. We were able to kind of scan and see where it was at. Obviously, a little bit harder for me to tell them exactly how it was, just because I didn't drive the car how it usually is normally. But I got to drive the medium tire. I got to drive the soft tire, and we were in a heater there in the end. Sadly, I had a bit of a moment into 9, and
Bit of a moment's an understatement. He showed me the onboard. It was a good save.
So and that ended up being our quick lap. So I think it went a lot better than what the timesheet had shown, and it was just a really cool experience, man. I mean, it's been a long time coming, but very different with all the traffic callings. That's something that we don't have in IndyCar. So it definitely takes some time to get used to, but very much looking forward to a possible opportunity in the future, and just being around here, man. I think it's cool.
One guy who's not going to be around here next year is the reason you're wearing that hat, Daniel Ricciardo. Obviously being a part of the team, what's it been like getting to know Daniel? How much do you think this place will miss him not being around full time?
Man, he's a great guy. Always has a smile on, and I feel like, you know, as a professional athlete, and how he dealt with tough situations this year, I feel like a lot of people gained even more respect to him, including myself, because just of the way that he kind of went about everything and treated it. But he's awesome, man. He's great fun, and his family's fantastic, and I know every single member of the team is gonna miss him, because he's really a joy to have around.
Yeah.
So obviously it's a big difference between a Formula One car and an Indy car. So it's not what did you learn driving it that you might be able to take away, but just from the whole F1 experience that you've had, whether it's something procedural or the way they approach a certain problem, anything you can take out of this that you're going to apply back home in the States?
I think you and I were talking about it a little bit yesterday. Man, I just think what F1 has done as an experience, and what it feels like to be at a Formula One weekend, it's just not something that you feel in other categories. It's probably because F1 is Formula One, and it's, you know, the top of the top, and it's the biggest series, and
it has changed though, definitely.
No, it has grown massively, and I think a lot of that is Netflix, and we're seeing it in America, and we've seen that the appetite for motorsports in America is there, and they have untapped into an area where obviously IndyCar hasn't. And it is amazing to see just how much it's growing. Like, girls that would go to school with me, middle school, high school, elementary school, man, they're F1 experts now. and they'll message me and they'll say, you know, what happened to this guy, or where this guy going? And it's like, hey, how do you know all this?
What about how I did this weekend?
Yeah. But I just think it's awesome. It's great for the motorsports community. It's amazing for all the teams, the drivers, you know, just all the show that is a Formula One weekend is unmatched by anybody, I think.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Pato, thanks for coming on the show. Enjoy the winter. It's been great seeing you around. Good luck for Indy next season. Hopefully we'll see you back in the paddock. And I mean, you know, I want you here full time, but...
Am I going to see you in America?
I mean, I hope so. I'll come over to a few.
Yeah, come visit.
Try and do the 500, mate.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll see you
we'll
there.
do that. Done.
Yeah,
Done. But we want you here full time, please.
Thank you, boys.
Thank you, Pato.
Have a good evening.
Appreciate it, buddy. I'll take that, mate. Thank you so much. Lovely to see Pato, a guy that you know so well, Hinch. As I said, I'd love to see him full-time in Formula One. Whether that happens or not, who knows? But as we were saying, we're losing Daniel Ricciardo. Is this it for his Formula One career? Who wants to take that?
You want me to take this
Who wants
first?
that? It's a hot potato. Who wants it?
I think we'll see him around next year, because he's reportedly signing a deal with Red Bull, which is great, and it's a natural thing for him to go back to a team that love him, and he got his 7 of his 8 wins there. I don't know if he wants to come back on the grid. I don't think it'll be with Red Bull. I think he'll have to do what he didn't want to do next year and go towards a Haas or a Williams or an opportunity further down. But I can also understand for him, you know, it's tough when you're not getting the results for a couple of seasons. He's a guy that's had the height of Formula One in terms of race wins, and not just race wins, but panache, the overtakes, the Danny Rick smile. You know, this is a real character, and he's not been his usual self a lot of the time.
He's been beaten up.
He has, and it's not been that nice to watch.
No.
So I can understand completely why he wants to have a year away from racing, go to the beach, have some cocktails, do what he wants to do for a year, and then, you know, reconsider his options.
And I think, I kind of agree. I think that once he has that year off, once he gets that opportunity to step away, spend some time with himself, do what he wants to do, I don't think he's going to want to come back to a backmarker team. And so I think it's one of two things. He either goes and finds another racing opportunity somewhere else in the world that he can be competitive, have some fun, that's not quite the stress and pressure of Formula One, or maybe he just steps out of the car altogether and just enjoys whatever's next in life. There's still a lot of life left for Danny Rick.
And there's a big world outside these paddock
For sure.
gates. Nicholas Latifi is leaving Formula One. Mick Schumacher, we know, is leaving a race seat. Possibly will be turning up at Mercedes as their reserve driver, just like 12 months ago, contacting the race today between the two of them. An unfortunate end to both their seasons, really.
Yeah, and it was just a really strange one, this one, into turn 5, and Mick just, I don't know, it was just really sloppy. Maybe his head was somewhere else. This should have been a comfortable pass for him coming out of this corner.
Synchronized spinning.
Yeah, he just didn't. He's a long way back. He's not trying to go for a move. He's coming deep, and I think maybe there's a fleeting moment where he thinks Latifi's gone so wide he'll just go for the apex. But it was never on. You take a bit of a late apex there anyway because the exit's crucial. He was on better tyres, would have had DRS. I think he's had just a lapse in concentration, and it's a shame for both of them to have that today.
Yeah, to have the last race and both of them on that sort of situation to end like that, it's a bummer. Again, we're probably going to see Mick back in the paddock. Don't know what the future holds for Nicholas. You know, it's been 3 years here. He's going to move on to something else. You know, hopefully he's looking maybe at IndyCar as an option. I know it'd be fun to have him there, but we'll see. Just again, it's an unfortunate end for both those guys' seasons.
It is. One guy who finished in the points, and we are losing. And this weekend has been, I think, about as much about him as it has been about celebrating the end of the 22 season and World Championships won and second place. Sebastian Vettel, four-time world champion, somebody who really transcends so much of this sport, and the outpouring of love from the fans in the grandstands today just showed how warmly he's loved within motor racing.
But I think more than the outpouring from the fans, that makes sense. It's the outpouring from the paddock. You know, you have this incredibly competitive environment. You're supposed to kind of hate each other and all the rest of it, but whether it's other teams, all the other drivers, everyone just holds this guy in such high regard as a racing driver, as a human being, and it really did all come out today.
A guard of honor. I've never seen that in Formula One ever, not for any driver.
He does have so much respect in the paddock. I mean, this is a four-time world champion, and also just a good guy. You know, he's on the chairman of the GPDA, one of the three. He's a leader amongst the drivers. They all respect him. They look up to him for big decisions as well when they want to take a stance or they want to look into things. And so I think that as a unit, they'll all really miss Seb. And of course, he's provided a lot of entertainment on and off track over the years as well.
He was a good friend and dearly loved Charlie Whiting, and after his passing, do you think Seb stepped into Charlie's kind of safety brief in a way, constantly looking out for the drivers in what he's done? Do you think he might hang around in that kind of a position, maybe still with the GPDA after he retires?
If he wants to. I was there with Charlie in 16 and 17, and Seb was already in this position. He was already a spokesman at that point. He was a four-time world champ. He was a little bit younger and racing for Ferrari, and still at kind of the peak of his powers, trying to fight for titles. And he was already there. It's just in his character to be, you know, stepping up to the plate, and he's a leader, really. And I kind of feel like he can do what he wants at this point. You know, he's such a good spokesman for anything. If it's politics, it could be bigger than Formula One for him. If it's Formula One, anyone would be really wanting to take him.
Yeah, really will. Right, we will probably, I'm sure, talk about Seb a little bit later in the show as well. For now, let's talk about that battle for P2 in the championship. It all came down to this, of course. Charles versus Checo. The Ferrari had legs we didn't think it was going to have today. Checo on the two-stop strategy with it all to do, which gave us that nail-biting, almost last lap fight, but it was just was just too much in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's so many things to unpack with this whole situation, right? First of all, we said it on the show. When did you think this year we'd be praising the tire longevity of a Ferrari over a Red Bull, right?
What happened to that?
It's just so bizarre. Even earlier in the weekend, never mind earlier in the season. Then you think, from a strategy standpoint, Ferrari made the right call, maybe with Red Bull doing the two-stopper with Perez, maybe that wasn't the right call. When was the last time we had that conversation? But at the end of the day, I think if you look back over the season as a whole, how many wins and other points were taken away from Charles for things out of his control, bad strategy calls, the rest of it. Red Bull and Checo did a heck of a job to be in that fight, swapping back and forth the last 4 races, that position in second. They finished 1, 2, 3 in the race. As they finished 1, 2, 3 in the championship, it's probably how it should have gone.
I completely agree. I think if I had to say who deserves it, I think Charles has been amazing this year, and they both wanted to win the title. In the end, the Red Bull was the better car, wasn't it? We saw it with Max. Checo did finish over 100 points behind his teammate, whereas Charles was leading the Ferrari team. And, okay, he made some mistakes. Ferrari made a lot of mistakes, but I think he's been also one of the standout drivers. Checo had a great season at Red Bull. He stepped it up.
For sure.
He'll be hoping for more next year, but I think between them, and especially to finish like this for Ferrari, a really clean race with both cars, good time management somehow. The strategy was good, the pit stops were good. What happened, we don't know, but I'm really pleased for them all.
It does mean, of course, that it's not quite the perfect season for Red Bull. Their search for a driver's 1-2 goes on. How's Christian Horner feeling after this race? Rosanna Tennant has managed to track him down.
Christian, you wrapped up both championships, but not to be for Checo today. How proud are you of the job he has done?
He's had an immense season this year. Think of what he's achieved, the pole position he did in Saudi, the Monaco victory, the Singapore victory, 5 1-2 finishes. The combination of him and Max have won us the Constructors' Championship for the first time in 8 years. The only team to have beaten the stranglehold of Mercedes. So, yeah, he's had an immense season. He can be very, very proud of everything that he's done, and to come within 1 point one place of second place in the championship is something that he can be very proud of this year.
We've been talking about the future of Formula One with Pat Simmons on the show. Obviously, the big task now is to back these wins up. With everything that you are now facing as a team, with the penalties applied, how difficult is that going to be in 2023?
Well, it's going to be difficult, and not just because of that, but because Mercedes and Ferrari are very high-quality teams, and they won't have enjoyed this year. They'll be fighting back hard, I'm sure. But what we've lost in wind tunnel time, we've gained in motivation, and the team can be incredibly proud of what they've done this year, what they've achieved, the records that we've broken, and that is all the motivation that we need as we go into the winter now and look forward to 2023. But before we do that, we're going to celebrate 2022.
Good. A couple of days off as well for you?
Can
you take a day off?
Look, there's no such thing as that in Formula One. I think Christmas, everybody will get a well-deserved break, but 2023 starts tomorrow.
Oh.
And for the design team, it started months ago. So it's still a lot to do this year in preparation for next year, and it's the hard work that goes in now that makes the difference for the years ahead.
Well, congratulations. We'll see you on the other side. 2023
Thank you very much.
awaits.
Thank you. Thanks for all your help.
Thank you to Rosanna. Thank you very much to Christian. As Christian says, guys, 2023 starts right now. It starts tomorrow. Hello. It starts tomorrow. Tomorrow morning.
Oh, don't say that. We have a little break, don't we?
Well, we do. They don't.
Okay, fine,
straight back out.
Great.
Straight back out. They'll be prepping the cars ready for the postseason test.
Yeah, it's pretty intense, isn't it? And the rule changes are not massive for next year, little tweaks, but everyone's going to be having an idea on that already. We already saw in practice, it actually started already on Friday because there was flow-vis on the cars, all with a view to trialing parts for the test and then for next year. It never ends.
It started 6 months ago. Who are we kidding? Back at the factory, engineers have been working on this for quite some time, and that's just the world of Formula One. It really never stops.
No, it really doesn't. Pato obviously was running that new floor on the McLaren through the weekend, trying to get on top of that. Did you ever do postseason testing?
Yeah.
Do you like it, or were you just like, can you just let me go home now?
Yeah. When I was reserve driver, brilliant. Any chance to get in the car was great.
Car.
When I was the race driver, I was like,
Get me home.
Where's the beach? It's not far away from here. That's the good news.
there.
so
Beach
close.
in the morning, drive the car in the afternoon.
You can taste the salt in the air from the sea. It's not fair at all. So Alpine did manage to finish 4th in the Constructors' Championship. Let's take a quick look at that. We've already spoken about McLaren. Hell of a job from them when you consider how poor their reliability has been this season. Another DNF today for Fernando Alonso, a water leak, ultimately creating a PU issue after PU issue. He estimated, even earlier in the season, he'd lost as much as 60 to 70 points this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's why when you look at Lando being 7th in the championship, it's shocking that an Alpine wasn't 7th in the Drivers' Championship, right? They're so fast, but just lost so many points.
Yeah, they had the faster car, didn't they? They also had 2 really evenly matched teammates, which should have been a big asset. And, okay, they got it, but I really feel like Fernando, he's had such bad luck. He's also been a star this year.
Yeah,
he's been, whenever he's had a DNF, it's been from like a 6th or a 7th place. Today was further down, but he was on a different strategy, would have come back through. So he's a little bit peeved, I think, at the moment. He's looking forward to going to Aston.
Peeved is the word, absolutely. And also, I just want to look at the rate of development that Alpine had this year, because it seemed every race we went to, they had an upgrade. And no other team was doing that. We used to see it all the time. Every single weekend, someone would come with something new, every single weekend. Alpine, I think, were the only team that developed every single race. They planned it from a financial perspective and from a development perspective absolutely perfectly.
But I don't think it transformed their pace. I mean, it's one thing bringing up upgrades, but it's another thing being quicker with them and getting the most out of it. I'm thinking back to Melbourne. They were rapid, and Fernando...
Nearly on pole.
He could have been on pole there. He thought he would be in the fight for the front row as a minimum, and then he had a hydraulic failure, one of his many in this season that's cost him. And they've always been hovering where they are, really. Best of the rest with McLaren, occasionally Aston Martin. For me, they've been the big development winners this season from where they started to where they finished. Alpine, it's a sort of, do you go in big chunks and take the gains, or do you go little and often? I don't know. Sam Collins will do the math on all of that at the end.
I'm sure he will. We are just waiting. There is a huge, you can't see, it's behind the cameras, a massive melee of people. And in the middle of the melee of people is Lando Norris. Hello, Lando. P7.
How are we?
All right, fella.
Thanks.
In the Drivers' Championship.
Thanks, mate.
Congrats, man.
Oh, man, P7, I hate that number now. I've been there too much. Yeah, I think what an end for the year, for myself, for the team. I mean, I say that it's P6. It's not like it's a win or anything, but it's the best we can do at the minute. So I'm happy. I think I've given the team the best and most amount of energy and motivation to go into next year. We didn't finish P4 on the Constructors. I know that, but to have fought Alpine for so long, a team that started off very strong in the beginning of the year and have continued to do a very good job. Fair play to them, full respect to them. They've done a better job than what we did this season, but I'm still very happy with the team. I'm happy and I'm proud of how we performed this year, how we recovered from the beginning. It's just we need better results, and we all know that. So everyone's working extremely hard already for next year.
Fastest lap today.
I know, mate.
Did you hammer one in? Did you know about it?
I'm the quickest driver out there today.
That's it. You went the season as the quickest
But you
man.
didn't even pit late at the end for it.
I paid the price. I digged hard at the end.
Were you thinking about it when you were on that lap earlier on?
No, it was 15 laps to go. It was something or 16, so I was like, nah, not that many. I can push. And I didn't think to go for fastest lap, but the car, new tires, lower fuel, it just comes alive a bit, and the natural driver just goes, oh, give it a little bit. And I felt good, I just felt the gap was opening to Esteban, who was on the hard tire. And then my engineer came on the radio, was like, some drivers have been degging hard on the medium, so watch out. That lap, I degged maybe 1 second, and I was like, I got like seven laps to go, 6 laps to go. I had an 8-second gap to Esteban, and it was 1 second over the line, and one more lap and he would have passed me, so perfectly timed. But I paid the price, but I got fastest lap, so I don't care where I finished in the end. I was fastest out there.
I know you say you're tired of the number 7, right?
Yeah.
But in some ways, 7th, it kind of has to feel like a bit of a win. You know where your team's at in terms of the constructors, but are you still, how do you keep the motivation up, right? Because 7th, I know you don't want 7th, but you still have to leave me like, yeah, we did, that's the best you can do.
For sure. I think that's something you have to learn, especially when you get to Formula 1, is you don't have the same opportunities as what you have in Formula 2 and Formula 3 and so on. and you have to kind of relearn what's a win for you on that weekend. And every weekend's different. And a win for us is a P6 today. A bonus is a fastest lap. But sometimes it's P7. Like, that's the best we can achieve on that weekend. And it's not like the 3 teams ahead of us are a little bit ahead. You know, they're quite convincingly ahead. So any opportunity we've had, we've taken, and we've been there. Imola, my only podium. The only one to finish on the podium bar the top 3 teams. So there are many moments that I'm proud of, and I'm very happy with this season. As a driver, I feel like I've driven better pretty much in every race than I did last year. It's not looked like that from the outside because I've just not been as high up. I've not been fighting for podiums in P4 and P5 like I did last season. So.
And you've driven through tonsillitis and food poisoning and losing 4 kilos in Brazil. I mean, you've had some, looking good. You've had some titanic drives when you've not been at 100%.
Yeah, thanks. They were tough. They were tough weekends, especially. I'd say Barcelona was probably the worst I've ever driven. I drove amazingly,
but
you
drove great.
I've been in the worst state, energy-wise and fitness-wise, in my career, I would say. So, and I still had one of my best results of the season. So, I mean, there's just been a lot of ups and downs this season. Ones I'm very proud of, and ones maybe not so proud of. Although that's not so much the case. So, just tough. A difficult year for everyone. I feel like we deserve more because everyone's worked so hard. But hopefully we can show that next season.
We've got to let you go, but very quickly, looking towards next year. New teammate. Do you want some water?
I just want an ice lolly.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We don't have any this week.
Me here.
Remember, right, note that down. Bring ice lollies for Lando every race from now on. We will do that. I've just heard from my producer, noted. New teammates, new start with the team next year. You as team leader, looking forward to it?
I don't think you need to prioritize team leader. It's just we look into another season. I want to believe we have a good plan in place, a better plan than ever to improve into next season. Next season already starts on Tuesday with Oscar in the car, myself in the car. So my first time to actually finally get to meet him. I've met him a few times, more like, hey, how are you? I'm off. So we've not got to know each other yet. So it's still going to be quite a new thing for me, a new thing for him especially. But our year starts then, so we already have to start to work together, and I'll be helping him get up to speed as much as possible, although I'm sure he's not going to need a lot of help because he's in Formula 1 for a reason, you know, winning Formula 3, Formula 2. I look forward to being able to work with him. So,
lovely stuff. Enjoy the winter.
Excited. Cheers, guys.
Thanks,
all the
Lando.
best.
Appreciate it, man. Great stuff. Great stuff. As you say, top tier in all aspects.
Yeah. I really rate him, and I think he's rapid. Yeah. I just hope that McLaren next year can make a step up in terms of car performance. He's also locked into that really long contract there, so he needs McLaren to step up.
Well, they needed to because Red Bull was sniffing.
Yeah,
they were really keen on him.
He's not going anywhere else now.
No.
You can see the frustration. He really wants to be above that best of the rest label, doesn't he?
Indeed he does. Talking about best of the rest, Ferrari. Charles Leclerc finished P2 in the drivers, Ferrari second in the constructors, and Rosanna Tennant has found Mattia Binotto.
Mattia, at the end of what's been a tricky year for all of you, for Charles to seal P2 in the drivers' standings must be a lovely way to finish off a hard season.
Yeah, it is, and it's great, and it was important for us to try to finish well, and this weekend the entire team, the drivers, performed well, solid race weekend. P2 and P2 constructor and drivers is the achievement of an entire season. It's not only today. So no, it's a balance of the entire season. I think no one would have expected Ferrari to be so strong at the start. After the 2020-2021, we had a few up and downs certainly during the season. So being back to be competitive, which was the objective of winning, it's a different type of different steps. So there is still much to learn. We are aware of that, but we are working, let me say, hard to try to next year maybe for a new challenge ahead of us.
And of course, when you're learning, you have to look back. You just mentioned a few things, but what would you say have been the strengths of the team and then the weaknesses?
I think that the strengths has been to stay united, and even when we were in difficult situations, try to react and really try to stay united and work hard. And I think that has been really the strengths. The weakness is that there is still much to learn, which means that in each single area there is one step further that is required. I don't think it's a single area. It's from, yes, certainly the strategy, the pit stops, but as well in terms of car. reliability need to be improved, and the speed need to be improved, because on track we have had a good car for the quali, but not a good car enough for the race.
Throughout the season, you've tempered our expectations, saying you were never really expecting to be in the fight for the championship in 2022. Do you expect to be there in 2023? Can the Tifosi get excited once more?
I think that from being competitive to win, it's a difficult step. I think raising the expectation would be wrong. We know that there is still much to learn, but that's our challenge ahead. So we will do our best, try to do it. But today we have not the fastest car on track as first. So we know that there is a gap in terms of speeds that we need to close. More than that, we need to improve for what we did for all the mistakes of the season. So yes, our ambition will be that one. Saying that we can achieve it, I think is too early days.
And it's lovely chatting to you now, end of November 2022. Am I looking forward to talking to you in 2023 as well, Mattia?
I will be there.
You will be there. Well, that's great news. Enjoy your winter break. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Interesting little bit at the end there from Rosanna, because there have been rumours in the Italian press, but Mattia Binotto confident that he will be talking to Rosanna Tennant again next year. Guys, great to hear from Mattia. Ferrari, of course, we've been saying for a long time now, there isn't a season that Ferrari goes into where they're not hoping to win the World Championship, but by tempering those expectations early, do you think they ever really gave up hope of that world title until it proved that Red Bull were too fast? Or do you actually honestly believe that P2 was the only aim this year?
Well, I think there's two aims. The one before you turn up to testing and the one that changed. So it was a new set of regs for everyone. Ferrari have come from 2 years of mediocrity. Then they build the best car at the start of the year. So they probably weren't expecting to. Then they did. And then you've got to be thinking championship, surely.
For sure. In those first couple races, they're thinking it. I don't know what point it changed. Leclerc said maybe around France he thought, okay, maybe it's too much, but yeah, you go into it like that. What's up, fella?
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Good job.
Thirsty.
Good job.
Just water?
Yeah, for now. For now.
What
happened? Rehydrate first before I get on to the other stuff.
First of all, how do you enjoy the last race for McLaren?
I'm certainly relieved to have a race like that. You know, I felt if the season ended last week with, you know, obviously a lap 1 crash retirement, that would have, it would have just left like a sour taste, I think. So to see a checkered flag, to be in the points, to hold off Vettel, that kind of made me happy. As much as I love the kid, it was nice to hold him off, and just obviously just have one last little battle with him. So, I feel a little more fulfilled now.
Lovely.
2 really good races in the last 3.
Yeah.
Any way are you thinking you made the right decision to step out for a year?
Yeah. I don't get me wrong. Like during the summer break and when everything went down, I was still with eyes set on being on the grid for 23, and we got into the first few, it was a triple header, and kind of through that triple header, I was starting to question it more and more, the view of 23, and then it just became more and more clear that I do want the time off, and just to get it for myself, and just to truly love it, to the level it should be. It should be overflowing with love, not brimming, overflowing, and that's what I want to get back. So then people ask, it wasn't necessarily about Haas, Williams, it was just about me having the time off and taking a year out.
Okay, so for the first time in a very long time in your life, season's done, you don't have a commitment, you don't have anything to worry
Nice.
about.
I'm pretty
right?
stoked.
I know this feeling. It's a great feeling. But so let me say, we're not worried about what you're doing next year or any of that stuff. What are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing for the next couple? What is Daniel Ricciardo going to do first now that he doesn't have to worry about Formula One next year? Are you going on vacation?
Yeah.
Are you just going to go back to LA? What are you going? Yeah.
It'd be just eventually just go. I say eventually, in a couple of weeks, get back to Australia and just hang out with friends, family, just without, even when I go home for Christmas and hang out, you're still a little bit reserved with how much you can let your hair down, enjoy yourself, because I can't eat too much because then I got too much work to do in January to get back in shape and whatever. So you're never really fully letting your hair down. So just to kind of have that, I think will already feel a little nice and a little, refreshing. So yeah, that's kind of that stuff. Just be a boy again.
Yeah.
Gonna go blow out.
Well, the crazy thing is,
He shows up 20 pounds heavier next year.
the weird thing is, I've actually struggled to keep weight on the last like 18, 24 months. So maybe it's like the stress of racing. So I hope to put on a few kilos, but I don't know. I feel if I could have, I probably would have. So we'll see.
Okay, so quick follow-up then. When are we going to get you to come out to an IndyCar race just to check it out, just to see it?
I do have plans to be a spectator at an Indy, a NASCAR race. I've never been to Talladega, so I'd love to get out there for NASCAR. And yeah, a lot of the Indy guys message me like, you'd love it here. So I said, look, probably not behind the wheel, but as a spectator, I think I'll check it out.
I think they all have shares in it, don't they? Everyone
Yeah, like go, you gotta go.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously watched it on TV, and it's awesome racing. Like,
And
I
you
do
know
enjoy.
you can just do road and street courses. You
Yeah,
don't
I know.
have to do ovals.
The ovals.
Just test one.
Right?
Just come for a drive. And
Like,
then
there was a
decide.
Ganassi seat with your name on it for next year. Like, literally opened up.
I don't want to race.
Take the time off.
Take
Take the time off. Just come check out a couple races.
I'll
We'll go
check
from
it
there.
out.
Deal.
I'm sure you'll see me there as a fanboy.
We joked earlier this season that you could come and host this show if you weren't racing in
Monza.
2023.
Monza
It was in Monza. And it was tongue-in-cheek because none of us wanted to see a situation where you weren't racing. The producer's just saying we'd love you on the show. But it feels like this is something that you need to do and something that you want to do to take the time off rather than it happening to you. It's something that you actually feel you genuinely need to get back to your best and who you properly are.
Yeah, exactly. I feel, as hard as the situation was, initially when I heard the news I wouldn't be racing next year, I then was like, okay, I think actually this is maybe a blessing in disguise. I feel like I'm not that intense or deep, but I also feel like everything happens for a reason. And I was like, it became more and more clear to me, like, okay, this is actually going to be the best thing. And that's why, like, it's not about just being on the grid and being an F1 driver. It's like, if I'm on the grid, I want to be the best version of myself possible. And I'm not convinced I would be if I jump back in a seat in 23. So that's why this time could get me back to where I know I can be.
Two quick ones. You signed the Red Bull deal yet?
Very close.
Great.
It's unless something crazy happens, it should get done. But of course, I can't be like it's done until it is done.
And secondly,
that's the likely place I'll be.
This isn't it, is it?
I don't believe it is. I think when the lights go out next year and I'm watching as a fan, part of me hopes that I feel a lot of rage and anger, and then I'll have my answer.
Lovely.
Cheers. Thank you, guys.
Winter, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Cheers, mate.
Congrats, buddy.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Peace.
Make me a bit emotional.
Rage and anger, does he possess those? I wasn't aware that that was even possible for him.
But that's the honey badger thing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing with that guy. As soon as that helmet comes down, you see in the car, that smile goes and it's all in.
Yeah.
Always. Hello, mate. This is great. Yeah, lovely to hear from Daniel. And as you said, just before he came on, he does sound beaten up, like he needs out of this for a bit.
You know what? I quite rate it because I've been saying for a while. I think a lot of people have been saying the best thing is to stay on the grid. You go to Haas and Williams; it's a better option than not. But actually, I quite like that he's just said, no. You know what? For me, I don't want to race. I need to I need to rejuvenate. I need to get my mojo back, and that's Danny Rick through and through. It's better he takes a year out, figures out what he wants to do, than chuck himself straight into a situation he doesn't absolutely want to be in.
Shows a real awareness of self.
Yeah.
Right, folks, this is the post-race show, so we should have a bit more post-race content. And Hero, your top 3 drivers.
Hey, Checo, you gave it everything in that race. Some of probably your best laps maybe you've ever done, and it just wasn't quite enough. How do you feel right now?
Yeah, I'm pleased because I gave it all, Obviously, if we look back, there were things that we could have done better, like that middle stint, we were still thinking that we were on a one stop at that point. So, I think that really caught us out a little bit. And, that really meant that we lost few seconds there. when we were behind Max, as Max was on one stop and we were on the two, so that middle stint was an idea for us.
When you look back on the year, though, as a whole, there were some real high points when they, particularly that Monaco win, you know, there were some real high points.
Yeah, certainly there are some great days that we had during the season, so we can be pleased with those. And yeah, I mean, to regroup all together, you know, it's nice to finish this season and look forward for another strong year next year.
Great stuff. Have a good winter. Thanks. Charles, congratulations. Let's start with the race, great pace, great strategy. Like, it all went well today, didn't it?
Honestly, I'm really happy. Obviously, coming to this weekend, it was not easy for the whole team. There were loads of rumors around. There was obviously the pressure of keeping the second place in the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship. And to be performing that well in an environment like this means a lot to me, and that's exactly what we worked on in the last few races. And I think we did a great job, because if I look at the pace, pure pace, I don't think we were able to beat Red Bull today in today's race. But we established a plan that we followed at perfection. We managed to put Checo under pressure at the end of the first stint, which made him stop, then build a tyre advantage, then put him again under pressure at the second stop, which made him go to the second to a two stops, which was exactly what we wanted. And then we did our perfect race with a one stop and managed to beat him with a strategy. So it's a really good last race, and I hope we can build on that next year to fight for the championship.
Can you put into words how significant it is, not just for you to get P2 in the drivers, but for Ferrari, from where you guys have been, to get P2 in the constructors?
Well, I think we all want to be first as soon as possible. On the other hand, if you look how far we've come since last year, it is a great achievement. So I'm very happy and very proud of the team of such improvements, but we need to keep working in order to do the next step, which is the most difficult one.
Great stuff. Have a good winter, Charles.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hey Max, congratulations, 15 wins this year, incredible performance today on a one-stopper. How do you feel?
Yeah, of course, very happy with that. I think for me it was all about trying to make that one-stop work, and we managed the tyres quite well. And yeah, on the hard tyres it was still a bit unknown, could we make it or not? But at one point I think the hard tyres actually stabilized quite well, and I could bring it to the end without any trouble really. So basically my whole race was about just managing my stints, you know, to the end.
I know you're going to have the winter to think about it, but just quickly now, reflecting on the year as a whole, you must be so pleased with just how everything's gone.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's been an incredible season for the whole team, for myself, and something of course I will never forget. I mean, to have these kind of season, I don't think it will come along very often, but I'm definitely enjoying the moment.
Great stuff. Enjoy the winter. Thanks.
Your top three drivers then from the 2022 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And as it just so happens, the top three in the World Championship as well. That was a nice way to just sew it all up at the end, wasn't it? Look, folks, Rosanna Tennant's here.
Hello.
Hi, mate.
I'm very well. It's busy out there in the paddock, I have to say. I managed to trap, or speak to, shall we say, Matteo Binotto and Christian Horner. But yeah, it's a party atmosphere out there.
It is.
Harbour's going off.
Season's almost over for all of us, but before it's over, what was your moment of the season?
There have been loads, haven't there? There's been high moments, low moments that we'll all remember from 2022. I think one moment that stands out for me, which perhaps shows us where we are in the sport, is Zhou Guanyu walking away, or being stretchered away, but at least being okay after that huge crash at Silverstone, where we all stopped, red flag was brought out, and to see him walk away from a crash like that in 2022, I think it just shows how far the sport has come on safety, and I think that was a really amazing moment. And of course, our Rookie of the Year.
The only rookie.
Exactly, with the most beautiful little trophy that he was awarded by F1, but a huge smash, and one of the low points for him, but I think he has learnt so much from 2022, and I can't wait to see how he goes next year in 2023.
Yeah, he's been really impressive this year, but as you said, managing to walk away from that crash with shoes. But are you sure that that's the moment of the season, or was it actually the fact that Mummy Tennant just met Christian Horner?
Yes.
Yes.
It's been an ongoing theme throughout the year. I think when Christian was asking me where was his interview going to be going, I assured him, oh, here we are, there it is on the return.
Hashtag Rosanna's mum.
There we go, yeah. I assured him that people would be watching, at least my mother would be watching, and then he asked the names. I said Kutchi Tennant, Hinch, don't laugh, and for all our American viewers. And so, yeah, Christian today met, finally, Mommy Tennant. I call her Mooms.
That has been really the recurring storyline of the year, I think.
The whole P2 battle was a moot point today.
It was all the incredible evolving relationship of Christian and your mum. Thank you, mate.
Well, thank you for asking.
Hinch, what was your moment of the season, buddy?
I mean, it might be a little bit of a sentimental one, but for me, it was that last lap battle with Vettel and Magnussen at Austin. I mean, it was almost the end of the race here with Daniel and Vettel both getting points, but just seeing old Seb absolutely throwing his elbows out, getting the job done. It was a great little battle, points on the board for him. It was just so much fun to see that even after all these races, all these years, knowing he's going to the sport, he's still got that fire. For me, that was awesome.
What I loved about it is that celebration after it.
Yeah.
What was it for? Was it for 7th place
Yeah.
there? He'd been running in 4th or 5th for a lot part of that race, and he was just coming back to 7th. In any other day, that was like, oh, guys, what happened with the long pit stop? It's like he's champion there.
Yeah.
I was expecting the finger to come out.
Oh.
He really nailed it.
7 of them.
You may have noticed the gang's all here. Lawrence
Get the wide lens
Barretto,
out.
Laura Winter. Hello,
All
guys.
here.
Hello.
Who should we go to first? Lawrence, let's get your moment of the season.
It's a Fernando moment, not when he dropped the bombshell that he was leaving for Aston Martin, because that was one hell of a
That was
morning.
bombshell.
That was one hell of a news day coming back from Hungary. It was that moment in Montreal when he got P2 on the grid after getting fastest in final practice. P3, I think, through qualifying as well. Fernando's delivered some mega laps this year, mega performances, and had some pretty dreadful reliability. When I was talking to the Pelle earlier, he's pretty happy to have got this season done and dusted and being green from tomorrow.
Amazing. Laura, how about you?
So I had a few to choose from, but my moment of the season is going to be Oscar Piastri's tweet.
Amazing.
And I feel terrible because you've all gone for really wholesome, lovely moments, feel-good moments, and I've gone for perhaps one of the most scandalous tweets in the history of Formula One. But I do have a sort of a second on-track moment as well. But I do think it was just this moment. I mean, the silly season had been started by Fernando's shock announcement, Sebastian Vettel's announcement that he was obviously retiring as well, and then the Oscar Piastri tweet just blew up. Ryanair subtweeted him. Every English football club seemed to decide to sign him for him to turn them down. Cycling teams were signing him. Specsavers weighed in. It was the greatest Twitter storm for a long time. I think it was like the most viral F1 tweet that's ever been. But seriously, on track, I would say Silverstone. It leads on from yours, actually, Rosanna, because I think in that moment we saw potentially what could have been the very worst of motorsport. The thing that we dread happening each and every race weekend. And then what we saw after that, once we knew that Zhou was okay, was the most incredible battle between Leclerc, Perez, and Hamilton. Just the overtaking, the wheel-to-wheel action, and then Carlos Sainz made him win. But the Piastri tweet and the fiasco that ensued
The fiasco
just nudged it.
Love that. Jolien, your moment, mate.
I went on-track battles, and I was actually toying between Jeddah was an amazing race, but I went Bahrain because it was the first race, and I was on comms with Ben, and I was getting so excited when Charles and Max went wheel-to-wheel the first time, and this was just amazing racing for the lead of a Grand Prix between the two guys who I think we kind of quickly realised might be fighting for the championship. And this first lap happened, I was like, this is amazing. And then another lap happened, I was like, whoa, my word. And then another lap happened, I was like, oh, okay. F1 2022. I had nowhere else to go. It was just like cementing that the new regs had worked. The wheel-to-wheel action, it's always good in Bahrain, but it was just next level. And I loved it. What was yours, Will?
So I get quite attached to our co-hosts on this show. So like when Jack Aitken and Pietro got to drive in F1, it was really lovely. And I never thought it would actually happen for Nick, who is one of our most beloved co-hosts. And he got the opportunity. He grabbed it with both hands. Not only did he score points, but he secured himself the Formula One future that I felt he's deserved for such a long time. And that for me was just, it was all about F1. You've got one shot, one moment, grab it, take it, and everything's now coming for him, and I'm super happy for him.
Post-race show will be all the poorer for it.
He was, see, Daniel wants a way back to Formula One. That's where he needs to be next year.
He was literally larking around with us in Zandvoort on the post-race show.
Yeah.
He was on good form, but he didn't look like he was like laser focused, ready to go, did he?
But this is the thing, we had to suddenly find somebody for the pre-race show and post-race show in Monza because Nick was supposed to be on it. And yeah, so... Right, everyone, thank you all for amazing work this year, for being a part of this show. Our thanks to everybody that you don't see behind the cameras, both here on site, whether they're here this weekend or not, and back at base in Biggin Hill. We are quite a small team. We put our heart and souls into this, and we hope that it shows. So our thanks, most of all, folks, goes to you at home for watching, for getting in touch with us throughout the season to let us know that you are watching. We have loved this year. I think it's safe to say we've enjoyed every single second of it. We've loved bringing it to you. It's all about the love here on F1 TV. Emma's hunting in the background there. It's written on a board. We made it. We have made it. What a year. The longest in Formula One history. Let's do it all again in 2023. Folks, thank you so much for watching. From all of us, from everyone behind the scenes as well, we thank you. Have a great winter. We will see you in 2023.
Lights out, away we go. And Verstappen's down the inside of Charles Leclerc.
Phenomenal racecraft again, what a battle.
This is real racing.
Charles Leclerc wins the opening Grand Prix of 2022. Let's go, come on.
That's just a bit too much between teammates. Here we go again for the lead. Here we go. Verstappen with DRS. Will he take the bait? No, he's not taking the bait. The move is done, finally.
Formula One is back in Australia.
Okay, Max, stop the car, please.
B1.
Yes!
Leclerc slows.
No! That's power.
What a blistering drive Lewis Hamilton has put in today.
Good lad.
We are racing, and look at the sliding that's going on. Victory in Monaco goes to Sergio Perez for Red Bull. Carlos Sainz is going to go side by side, but into the first corner. But Max just is there, but Carlos is still on the outside. Wow! And look at this, all four together. My goodness, Sainz stays in front. Here comes Hamilton again. Hamilton again does both. Oh wow! He has taken his first ever win.
We did it. Yes!
Look at this, 5 cars vying for the same spot and tarmac. Can George Russell do it here in Hungary? And he goes pole!
Up in the air went Hamilton.
This guy only knows how to drive the starting first.
Box in this lap, Max. It'll be hard to keep that car behind.
Nick de Vries is looking like he might be able to pick up a point on his debut. Is Russell going to take the plunge?
They're slicks. Yeah, that's brave at the moment.
A whopper of a slide.
My word.
Vamos, Checo.
Max Verstappen is now a two-time world champion.
Oh my goodness! And that is Fernando Alonso. He is catching. He's going to go attack for the lead. He's down the inside, and Max Verstappen takes the lead.
That's a great lap from Kevin Magnussen.
You're P1, mate.
Look at that face. George Russell will come across the line to win his first Grand Prix.
Max Verstappen wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix to take his 15th win of the 2022 season. Second place goes to Charles Leclerc. He has taken second place in the Drivers' Championship.